Right on. Somebody call for an exterminator. That's what I thought. That's right. Ready to roll out. Battle cruiser operational.
Welcome to the 32nd episode of the Undermind podcast. It is an exclusive episode again, and my guest today, the one and only Antiga, who has deserved an exclusive episode all by himself because he is such a great guy. Hey Antiga, and how have you been?
Pleased to be here on this afternoon. Thank you for having me.
What you've been up to lately?
Oh, lots of stuff. Moved across the country, work for a company now, an organization, and enjoying that. Settling in and now have time for a little more StarCraft fun.
Is it anything related to SSCIT or anything overlapping in knowledge?
Not really. But maybe that's best saved for stuff off the cast.
Okay, however much you want to reveal, it's like just a courtesy question, to be honest. And so now you will switch back to more regular StarCrafty things doing schedule, right?
Yeah, I've been really busy due to all that, of course, moving and new job and all that. But back into doing it. I have been doing some during AIIDE prep, helping out with McRave and Purple Wave,
And people
which is always fun.
And people can just consult you on that, right?
Maybe not specific to what they're doing, but I'm happy to help with what people have going on with bots. I have sort of been away because of how busy I've been, but I'm back in the swing of things now. So.
Yeah, you've been playing against bots and advising improvements, and I remember that for certain bots who shall not be named, you helped them advance on the ladder quite a lot of places.
Yeah, hopefully they're doing well. Still waiting to see how that all sort of shakes up. So
you should call yourself a Brood War AI strategy advisor.
I officially put it on paperwork as a consultant.
Yeah, perfect. So, news for this podcast, there are quite a few. First of all, a little bit of self-promotion. I have now a regularly featured segment on the Pylon Show, or at least it is planned to be regularly featured. Currently only one episode. It's Brood War AI News for Gamers, and it is a short segment, just a few minutes, and all the news that is happening in the Brood War AI world. And I'm quite happy with this development. The Pylon Show guys are cool, and we can work together on this, and it seems that people are kind of interested in this. What do you think, and what are your suggestions about this?
Well, of course, I'm really excited. Glad to see a segment over there on the Pylon Show. Yeah, it'll be great. We get to have some Brood War AI news to a little bit of a wider audience.
The challenge is that we are not gamers. Well, you are, but most of the bot authors, including me, are not hardcore gamers. So it's kind of hard to take a step back and view this from a bird's eye view and evaluate what is important or exciting for a gamer, because however much I would like, I probably shouldn't talk about coding, because at least not the technical details, because for your average gamer that is simply not interesting. So I've been thinking how to condense into this short segment stuff that is exciting or gathers interest in this scene.
I think there's some good stuff to do. Of course, micro examples are always fun. I'm sure that they'd find examples of Kilobot's Mutamicro pretty impressive, as well as the new McRae Reaver Micro was really quite fun and interesting to watch visually. So.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find clips of that. The problem with that is that I have to sift through a lot of games, and yeah, that takes time. Time I don't necessarily always have. So if you have some clips for me, that's a call for everyone that you think is a good micro example, or you just want it to be featured, please don't hesitate to contact me. I will try to do this the best of my ability, but still time is a factor here. So of course I can mention the SSC AIIDE broadcast, and time and again I find that people are surprised that this thing exists, and it's actually quite developed by now.
Yeah, people come across it all the time that are new to it. Most of the publicity, I guess, is within academic circles. It's not as much within the StarCraft public, and so there's new people that get exposed to it every day.
What I find is academics only work on this with a few exceptions for time of a thesis, and then they move on. Most of the bot authors, I would guess, the regulars, so to speak, are passionate hobbyists and not someone who did a thesis on that. Of course, there are counterexamples, but that's just my feeling about this.
Yeah, it's pretty common for bots to be tied to academic projects that have a short duration. And unfortunately, most of the serious development projects take years, not 6 months, 6 or 9 months. So.
Although there is a new bot on the ladder, a beta star, which is a team effort, I gathered about it that much, and it seems to be advancing quite well, although it is a fork of, I think, Locutus or some other bot.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Beta star is sort of a collaboration of 5 different previous bots, which is pretty crazy. It's UAB, Steamhammer, Locutus, Beta, and now into Beta Star, but it also has like 5 different libraries inside of it. So it's a pretty interesting piece of software.
Yeah, and it's from Nanjing University of China. I hope that I said it at least somewhere near correct. And yeah, it's a group project. That means that these kind of projects have a future. And we've talked about this. I think the way forward is to have group projects about bots, because simply you don't have enough time alone to compete after a while.
Yeah, it helps to hand it down, and as people learn, and that's the nature of academic projects they're built upon. I did forget that there's CSE in between Locutus and Metastar. So there's one more. So it's the,
Yeah.
really there's parts of that code base that are 10 years old.
Oh, yeah. I just
Which,
looked it up.
when you really sit down and think about that, you start to realize, what does it take to get up to speed with the code base and understanding what's occurring, and then modifying it in really interesting ways. So
it's UI Alberta bot, Steamhammer, Locutus, CSE, and then Beta Star. So it's a 5th generation bot, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it might be the only 5th generation? There's a couple of 4th generations that are based off of Locutus, but I think this might be the first 5th generation bot that exists.
Yeah, this is a term that we are using now. I just made it up. And yeah, And I really like how it blazed through the ladder. It's on fourth place right now. So and with 80% win rate, or that's not the telling statistic, but not far behind from the top bots. And Locutus is number one yet again. I don't know what's about Locutus, but every time it gets updated, it just skyrockets.
Yeah, it's always done great. One thing really interesting to note about Betastar is it actually has about a 40% crash rate that is not reflected on Basil. It crashes before games start, and so those crashes are not being incorporated into its win rate. So even though it appears to be doing exceptionally well on ladder, it actually has a horrendous bug that has
Oh,
not been fixed in about a dozen different updates to ladder. And I hope that their team is able to find and resolve that, which is really an unfortunate thing to have in a bot of that quality. So.
oh yeah. But this is like not as a big an issue as some you would think, because let's be honest, there are a lot of error-prone things in this whole scene, and it's hard to find a bot that does not crash. Like we were discussing some kind of quality check for bots, and I proposed a 10% lower than 10% crash rate, and even that's too high for some of the top bots.
It is. There's quite a few that crash quite often. We actually had an individual find a bug in Cherry Pie that was ancient and rectify that this last.
And speaking of the ladder, I wonder if AIIDE will have any effect on updates, because I saw 26 bots participating and then half of them withdrawing from AIIDE, which is kind of strange.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, I want to correct my previous statement. So Proxy fixed a bug in Torchcraft AI that was ancient and was a really nice catch in its fog of war system that was causing an integer overflow. That was really an excellent work. But it goes to show that even a professional development group that has a lot of involvement in, like Facebook, has something like an integer overflow in their code base that was then fixed later by a third party that found the flaw, which is really very impressive, because normally things like that don't get missed, and it was a really difficult bug. So all props to Proxy for finding that.
Absolutely.
Going back and talking about AIIDE, yeah, half the field dropped out.
Please don't do this to us. Although some of them were older bots, but most interestingly, Seda dropped out. Withdrew,
Yes.
and the withdrawing bots is two Chinese sounding bots, Sijashu and Weiguo, and someone called Metabot by Anderson Tavares. I have no idea who that is. I think that's
Metabot is a really old bot that is a collaboration of like 3 bots together. You've seen it on Ladder for years. It's that same older project.
now we do. Now we know that, and the other names are not that familiar, except for Dragon, of course. And I'm sad that he didn't make it.
Yeah, me too. TSMU has often been one of the very best developers over the long haul and really done some amazing advancements as far as bot technology has gone. And to see him register bot and have it withdraw it, I don't know what bugs he encountered, but that's hard for him.
Yeah, so I lied before. This won't be an exclusive episode. Hannes Bredberg just joined our little company. Glad you could make it, Hannes.
Thanks.
Okay, let's just continue. I will edit it out. What happened, by the way?
Well, I kind of fell asleep.
I kind of want to slap you with a trout now.
Thanks.
Okay, so I will edit this part out and let's continue. So yeah, let me correct my earlier statement. Actually, there are some other familiar bots like Leta bot by Martin Royekers, Murph by Habo, Francisco Javier Sacido, full name I think, and Ophelia by Jean Chassoul. All of them were guests on this podcast previously, so I was just glancing over the bot names and didn't immediately recognize them. And that's sad that they did not submit, probably time constraints. So
yeah, that's the second tournament that Leadabot has signed up for and then withdrawn from or did not submit in this year, I think. So yeah, that's unfortunate for him too.
I mean, it's understandable, life happens. So then let's go back a little. Hannes, tell us what you've been up to lately and what's up with you in general.
To be honest, I've mostly been focusing on work. I've been looking a little bit into BWAPI for preparation for BWAPI 5, and that's about it.
Alright, do you have maybe any BWAPI 5 news for the public?
I don't think I do at the moment, but you guys should keep your eyes peeled.
Okay, not even something like approximate deadline or finish date?
No, I really don't want to do that at the moment.
This is me applying pressure.
Yeah, I can see that, but it's too early to say anything at the moment, but something's coming.
Okay, that's good to hear. And yeah, we've been anticipating it this year, and I really hope it will come soon. And I see that there are work being done on it, and so it's not that by a long shot. No one should worry. There are absolutely no cause for alarm, people. So with that being said, let's jump into our next topic, which is well, not next, but still AIIDE. And I think 13 bots are one more than last year, or I recall 10 or 12 bots last year on AIIDE. I can't find the exact number suddenly.
I'm looking at the list. So there's 11 plus 3 from last year. So a total of 14. There's 15 on the list, but Stormbreaker opted out. So it appears that we have 14 runners for the tournament.
I mean, what was the number last year?
Oh, last year. I don't know without pulling it up.
Yeah, but about the same or one or two less, I believe. So it is still growing, and that's good news. Maybe the rate of growth should be enhanced a little bit.
Yeah, it'd be nice. We do have some really interesting bots. AITP, which is from the Turing Lab CPSS lab, and appears to be a CIDA fork. Of course, the perennial Protoss crowd of Banana Brain, Locutus, McRae, Purple Wave, the big four, as they've become to be known. Dakin is sort of also in that hunt with that crew. Also, I'm not sure if I can say it right, but Zhao Yi from the Zhao Yi AI lab also is a professional project. Is really interesting. I really expect that Purple Wave, Locutus, AITP are probably the front runners, and then sort of the second tier being Banana Brain, McRave, Steam Hammer in all likelihood, and then everyone else sort of after them. Given at least what I think from their histories and the amount of seriousness as far as development is concerned and resources.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the leading Protoss crowd. I actually had one of the SSCIT podcasts dedicated to analysis of the leaders, but it was not enough time for an in-depth analysis of even those Protoss bots. Well, first of all, for some reason, it seems that Protoss are much more stronger on the ladder right now. Protoss, Terran, and Zerg would be the order of strengths in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I think so. The Protoss bots have seen a lot of development. You've got kind of reoccurring serious developers. You know, Bruce Nielsen with Locutus is a very serious and disciplined developer. Same with Dan Gant and Purple Wave. McGrave's a little all over the place, but he is really creative and perennially competitive with that crowd. The author of Banana Brain, the same way. You know, he's really a consistent developer that stays up to date and keeps pushing it. The Zerg crowd that's really sort of aggressive is kind of limited to like Microwave and Steamhammer, and they don't seem to release updates as often or be putting as much time in. And on the Terran side, it's pretty limited to Crazio and now Hal Pan, which I'm really happy to see that his bot's doing so well. That at least are releasing consistent updates and are really interested in doing well on a consistent basis.
Yeah, Crazio is not on the ladder at the moment though.
He plays on Basil, but not on SSCAAT.
Oh, he must have a reason for doing so.
Yeah, I'm a little bit sad that we didn't see many of those Zergs actually submit.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Really, the only two Zergs that are going to play are McGrave, Steamhammer, and a leftover ZZK from last year, which is kind of stagnant. Other than Steamhammer has some small updates and improvements, but I don't expect it to be a contender for winning.
Yeah, McRave is all over the place. I think we discussed it previously that pulling a McRave is slang for committing a bot-breaking update just right before a tournament.
Which unfortunately he may have done this year too. Which is kind of rough. He's got a learning issue, I think, in his upload, where the bot does not learn correctly game to game. That snuck in at the last minute. So I'm not sure how well his bot's going to do. We'll see. So it's really strong even playing random build orders, but its learning is part of what makes it special. So,
to be honest, you call it doing a MacRave, but I think every bot developer has done this at some point in their life, probably even more than once.
Yes, it's really true. It happens a lot. So.
Yes, but somehow he is the most vocal about it, maybe.
Yeah, that's rough. You know, I got to play a lot of games as a human against McRave in testing and development. It's unfortunate that with the learning disabled, it may not learn to use its best stuff, but its PvP Reaver micro is sickeningly good now. It's by far better than any of the other bots that we've ever seen as far as Reaver shuttle micro.
Definitely, it's exceptional.
It's really nasty. To the point where I was losing the majority of the games in practice against it. It's really, really good. It does have some weaknesses, but if you try and fight it straight up mid-map in PvP, you're in for a beating. It's really nasty.
By the way, Steamhammer received an update recently, and it looks like that Jay is back to working and updating his bot again, which is a welcome news.
Yeah, glad to see him back. It looks like he's fixed a whole bunch of Zerg stuff, and you know, really the main thing that Steamhammer has now is support of pre-learning data files, which is always something that really held the bot back because it has like 70, 80 Zerg openings. And if you can't pre-learn data files, it spends half the tournament figuring out what builds to run versus what bot instead of actually winning. And the ability to preload learning files will help it greatly as far as competition is concerned.
Yeah, and it's a great tool to play around with nonetheless. So, Hannes, any reason you haven't entered this year's AIIDE?
Well, to be honest, I just haven't done anything on my bot, and I just don't feel comfortable submitting it if I haven't made any changes to it.
There is another bot that uses nukes now.
Oh yeah, that also kind of throws me off, and I really don't want to be nuked by that bot, so that's also kind of threatening. So I really want to make sure that I can at least nuke that bot better than he can before I submit.
You have your priorities. Speaking of coding and bot development, we had an idea about having a get-together streaming of bot play and maybe a little bit of development of various bots. And it was surprising because I did a little bit of search, and there are actual coding discussion or development discussion streams on Twitch. And they are viewed by quite a lot of people. Of course, nowhere near the amount that gaming streams get, but this is apparently a thing.
Yeah, I think we talked about it quite a while back on a cast about the possibility of developers doing that. I still think there's a lot of untapped potential in a bot developer that's really involved with social stuff, social media and streaming, that does most of their development live, has their own blog that's attached, sells t-shirts, allows people to sponsor them, maybe has a Patreon account, stuff like that. I think that that's really underutilized and untapped in this community.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to do all of the social part, but I'm definitely interested in doing the social coding kind of part, live streaming when you program on Twitch or whatever. That's definitely something I want to look into.
I mean, you don't have to show your face and do all the annoying streamer shit that annoying streamers do. It's just something fun and something we like to do. And I really don't want to sell I don't know, coder bathwater or some shit. And it's supposed to be somewhat serious.
If you do something like that, it's almost required that instead of having the webcam pointing at you, you have it pointed at your pet.
Or your keyboard.
I think that's almost a theme for it. Yeah. Yeah. That would be fun too, yeah.
That's okay. No, I mean, the other reason is you shouldn't try to emulate mainstream things, because there are people who will do that better, and there are a lot of contenders. If we do this and we stream this, it has to be something of its own flavor. So so far I haven't been able to organize this, and still volunteers welcome, but time zones and work and everything are really hard to organize together, but I am still hopeful. Okay, let's have the next topic now. It is funny because in the last podcast we mentioned jokingly with Bikekeeper that we wanted to meet up because we live kind of nearby, and many people thought that an actual meetup was taking place and was sad that it didn't. Now this is a little bit telling for me, I think.
I would love there to be a live meetup. It's just always hard because all of us live all around the world. Yeah, I should restart the once a month group meetup thing that we did on comms on Discord, just to give people an opportunity to talk with each other sort of outside of development and hangout.
I think we should do that a little bit more than we are doing it at the moment.
All right, I will put that on my to-do list. I will schedule one.
I mean, developers are not very social animals by default, but still. And that's just a side note. It was funny that people got excited by a joke. And speaking of... Oh. So next topic is Dave Churchill's ladder. I only saw 6 bots on it. I don't know why there is no more interest at the moment. Maybe because I feel it provides nothing really new to this scene. What do you think?
I think that it's still sort of in testing, and with them having the tournament enabled, the AIIDE tournament actually going at the moment, I think that there might be some interest afterwards. Yeah, I don't know. I know that some of the sort of front runners took advantage of it as a testing environment, at the very least, to make sure that their bot would run in a similar environment to what the tournament would be. Purple Wave, Microwave, etc. all did.
Yeah, it's maybe too early to tell.
I think that the main thing that people would like is GPU support, so that people can fork and run CherryPy without having to rewrite huge amounts of the code base and do a bunch of extra work in order to try and get it to run on the older ladder systems. And that's sort of been the feature in waiting, and as far as I'm aware, that's not available yet. So.
Also, that get me thinking a little bit. Not the tournaments themselves, but BW API 5 will be complete eventually. And I'm wondering what will come after that, because that is sort of the final version of BW API, no? Is there anything more to be done after that? Of course, not counting bug fixes.
It's the final frontier. No, I actually don't know, because I'm not sure we have a name either. But like there's a lot of bug fixes, sure, but I'm not even sure how many of those we will fix, because I think we kind of did the final bug batch for 4.4, but we'll see. If we would love to listen to the community in like what kind of updates they would like.
I haven't really heard much desire or people running into things that they find buggy in 4.4. As far as I'm aware, people tend to be pretty happy with how it functions. It seems to not have too many tremendous issues of any sort that are standing out. I'm still not entirely convinced on cloak to unit balance, but that is a topic that has been discussed many times and really kind of requires a community consensus before it can be changed. So
Just consider it as a new meta.
Yeah, the thing is that we could add like cloaking modes, but then the bot would have to be written in a way that supports all of the modes, and I don't just see that working for bot developers. It would be way too much work, I think.
Yeah, it's hard. For those that don't know what we're talking about, right now in BW API, invisible units, you can see exactly where they are. You just can't interact with them, being that they're cloaked unless you have a detector, but they're immediately visible to the API. So as soon as like a DT walks in out of the range, all the workers can just evacuate, which feels a little unnatural. But there's not really a good compromise that's been put forth for that yet.
You do also get the unit type, so you can see specifically that it's a DT and not an observer.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, but it's arbitrary, and yeah, community consensus is probably the way to go here, because there are no good arguments, or there are good arguments for either side. I personally don't really care, just let's agree on something.
Yeah, I almost hesitated to even bring it up because it's been talked about for 5 years and no consensus has ever been agreed upon on that topic.
All right, is the pizza challenge still on?
Yeah, if someone would like to challenge me as a bot author, happy to do that. Yeah, happy to do something like that. I haven't had any challengers all year, even though everyone knows, and maybe that's a little telling. Though I will say that the bots, as far as PvP is concerned, from the testing I did pre-AIIDE, especially with McRave and Purple Wave, they're getting awful close. If I don't cheese McRave, I lose about 60% of the matches. If I'm willing to two-gate and cheese him and proxy him, I can win, 80 to 90% of them, right? But of course, I know that. And when you play blind against a bot and you don't have a lot of practice against it, it's easy to get caught by things that you don't know about or that are its strong points. But I would encourage bot authors, if you are interested in having a long sort of YouTube televised series versus I'm okay human player, I'm totally down for that.
I think it's important to keep bot authors motivated, and this is just a cool intermediate step to keep people in the game, because tournaments are few and far between, and even winning them is like not a too regular occurrence. I really would like to give out some rewards for participation. Well, not just for participation, but I mean, there are a lot of work going into these bots, and that work should be rewarded. It's not like you just sit down in front of the computer and play a game.
Yeah, the main thing that I want to provide is if for those that would be interested, is a route to playing against higher level humans as well. Because sometimes that can be a little bit hard if you're a bot author. What do you do? How do you get games? If you're able to beat me, I will assist you in getting a match scheduled versus a top 5,000 player or better with my contacts in the Brood War AI Brood War community as a whole. I will help make that happen if you're able to defeat me in a best of 7. So it gives you a route to go through me and then move on to playing higher ranked humans down the road.
Yeah, the elephant in the room is the Snail project, which is on hold for, legal reasons, and that's all I'm saying. But were it to happen, it would be a great way and instant feedback for both authors. And that is something I'm passionate about. And also a great way to gather a lot of learning data.
Yeah, it would be great. The more data, the better, and it'd be great to have a platform that allows the both to happen. Just I understand the difficulties on the legal side that can be hard. Have you guys seen Lakudis's new PvP exploit build yet? It's pretty cool.
I think I have not.
Okay, so similar to what Crazy OP does in doing a cannon rush, Lakudis has a basically cannon rush fake into drop build that he's implemented, and it actually I think perfectly exploited Purple Wave's cannon rush detection system, and does really well against it due to that. I think that from what I remember in testing, Purple Wave after the update was only winning about 30% of the games versus Lakudis. So it's a really interesting build. It's a basically fake cannon rush into we're going drop. It's really quite cool. And it exploits the anti-cannon rush mechanisms in many of the Protoss spots, other Protoss spots in the top sphere.
Yeah, for every reaction you're adding to your bot, you're adding another way to exploit it.
Yep. And so some of the PvP bot authors are going to have to implement multiple or more complex cannon rush detection code so that they do not get tricked by this type of system, at least not as easily.
Entaro bambúzol.
Yeah, it's always cool to see exploit builds go through the ladder and what effect that they have on the bots in the development environment. And that's helped Locutus is now the #1 bot on the ladder by a fair margin at the current time.
And it has been on the #1 spot for a while now, especially since Crazy Withdraw.
No, only since the last update on the 16th last week on Basil. Prior to that, Crazio was #1 for, I don't know, like 4 months. But since the update on the 16th, Locutus has gone back to the #1 spot, like it was sort of over the Christmas holidays.
Yeah, awesome. Alright, that's all I had for today. Do you want anything else to be discussed?
Just good luck at everyone that's competing at AIIDE. Awesome to see the people coming out and competing. Really cool to see Banana Brain's author involved with how his bot's now set up for licensing. That's awesome. Good luck, everyone.
Good luck and thank you for being here.